Hello, everybody.
Hello.
And welcome to this edition of the Irreverent Therapists. I'm joined by Pam Houghteling, and we're out to have more fun again today.
Yay!
Yay!
Marilyn, what's our topic?
Our topic is, what roles do you play? All the world's a stage, and all men and women merely players. That would be Shakespeare, but it seems to hold true today. What roles do you play? With family, work, community, religion, or anything else? Are they helpful or harmful? Do they fulfill you or deplete you? And I'm going to add something here. Do you make them serious and real, or are you aware they're just roles?
And are you at the effect of them, or are
Yes.
you choosing them?
Let's all take a good look and reassessment of our roles. So that's
awesome.
Our topic. Yes.
I love this topic.
Yeah.
I could speak to this topic in the very real present.
Oh, great.
Oh, and because what's going on? So, I have two children who are technically adults. One's in college, one's beyond college. And they're both home right now. And, the one's home for the summer from college. The other one's moving into my house after having lived, independently for a while, for various reasons. And so my son and I, he's the one who's kind of going to be living here. We had to have lots of conversations about our role as mother and son, our role as landlord and renter, because he's not moving home, he's renting space in my house because I have a house that's big enough, and things were changing in his life in a way that he needed somewhere to stay. So that the mom role wants to go in there and be like, well, hey, if you did this would, like take charge.
Fix him.
And fix him, because there's so many things that he could, that I could help him fix. And to actually take a step back from that role and interact with him more from, hey, to be living, to be renting a room here, here's how things work. And we worked out, what are our roles with each other, and how are we going to handle things that are communal, like the kitchen and the laundry and stuff like that. So it's been a really interesting time to see with one person how you can have different roles.
Yes. Pam's air nub.
Yes. Come to my Airbnb. No.
Well, and I have a story that just popped up for me. I hadn't thought about this in a long time, but years ago, maybe 30 years ago, when I was 10. No.
Yeah, you were so young.
I was in a psychotherapy group. And we all met one day, and the therapist was like 15 minutes late. And he came in and he said, well, what were you all talking about? And I said, well, one of the things I was talking about was that it's not that you're the therapist, you're playing the role of the therapist for us. And he was like, oh, no, I am the therapist. And we went around a couple of times, and that's when I knew it was time to leave.
Yes. Yes. Well, I'm so glad you brought that up, because, so often, like, you meet someone like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a social worker, and, I'm a mother, and we have these roles that we take on and that we think are us.
Yes.
And if you go to that space you just talked about of, today I'm playing it being a mother. Yes. Today I'm playing it being, a partner in a relationship. Today I'm playing at being an owner of a business. I'm playing it being an employee. When you're just choosing the role in the moment, you have a lot of choice. Whereas if this is what I am, you're kind of stuck with it.
Well, that's what I was going to say when you started talking. It's like, if now I'm playing the role of this, you have space.
Yeah.
You can distance yourself from it enough to be aware of what you're doing and what it's creating and what you're choosing in any moment.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome.
Well, and I think too, like having the clarity for yourself and the clarity for others, like, so I'm a mom, right? You know, when my kids were little, like I'm mothering them and everything. I'm also a therapist, so I have all those tools. Then later I became an access consciousness facilitator, which is about, you know, a lot of asking questions and empowering people. And so when they were younger and they were upset, I would say, okay, would you like me to just listen? Do you want me to like be a mom and give you some practical advice and try to help you fix it? Or would you like me to be a facilitator and ask you some questions and see if we can shift and change something? You know, like we had short speak for it, but it was basically, you know, because I can just be a shoulder for you to cry on, or I can go into total mom mode, or therapist mode, or just empower you to change it.
That's amazing, Pam. Do you know how unusual what you did is?
I guess not, but okay.
Incredibly unusual. You actually gave them choice and asked questions.
Yes.
And what that brings up, and we'll just stick with the mom mode for now because it's easy, is that, you know, like you can have 10 different people saying, well, I am a mother, I'm in that mode, but it means so many different things. It's like a whole library of conclusions.
Yes.
About
yes.
what mom does. You know, I was just watching Young Sheldon, which is a kind of a fun, interesting, you can get it on Netflix. It's about this genius kid in this East Texas family. But the mom there, who's very religious, she has very definite ideas about how children should behave and what a mom does and what she sacrifices. So different from something I was reading about, you know, what do they call it? Well, there's the helicopter parent, you know, that's always chasing after. But then there's the laissez-faire. Yeah, I'm sure if you just do whatever you want, it'll all be fine. And these are all people who would say, well, I'm a mother.
Yes.
So if you're not really having that distance between you and whatever role it is, you think what you're doing is right and normal.
Yeah.
No matter what it is. But there's no question in the universe that might be able to change some things.
Well, and the thing is, when you do give yourself that space in whatever role it is, and you do go into asking questions, it also allows whoever you're interacting with, like the other part of that role, you know, to have their own awareness.
Yes.
So like when I would ask my kids, do you want me to listen? Do you want me to fix it? Or do you want facilitation? They would look at it and they'd be like, I just want hugs. And so I would just hug them. And then after a little bit, then they'd probably be like, well, can we use some of those access tools? I'd like to feel better. But they were coming to it themselves instead of me trying to get them somewhere. And I think, you know, any role I think of when you're like taking it on as this is who I am and this is my role and this is what I have to do, there's a lot of force involved and trying to get people to do things. You know, one of the things we talk about a lot in access classes that are about business and leadership and stuff is, you know, not trying to lead by getting people to do things, lead by asking questions and empowering them to know what they know and to show up how they show up. And then you choose, okay, this is working, this isn't working. We can talk about that. Is very different than my job is to get you to produce this, this, and this.
Right. Which is, it can be challenging because that's this reality's way of doing things, of leadership. And I know I have a team that I work with. We work together to create Right Recovery for You. And we're starting a new membership, a kind of an unstructured thing. We haven't figured it all out, but we were looking at, we can do energy polls, we can do SOP, we can do this and that. And someone said, well, Marilyn, no, in fact, I said it. I said, what if one time I had them facilitate me?
Yeah.
People were like, wow, now that's a role reversal.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
generally people come on those calls or membership or whatever it is to have you facilitate them. But anytime you can put a little in the expectations, there's a real possibility of changing things, of awareness.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, that's kind of fun. I think I'll try it.
Well, and what you're talking about, it makes me think. So anytime we're in a defined role, there's usually a higher and a lower, right? The parent and the kid, the boss and the employee, you're the one person has the knowledge or the expertise or the something, and the other person is trying to, so when you allow that space where you're not the role, you're playing the role, you're choosing the role, you're, can engage with the role and see how you choose to show up in that role, then there's a lot of flexibility. There's a lot of space, and there doesn't have to be a higher and a lower.
Right.
Like both Marilyn and I are facilitators. So we're facilitating people to know what they know, not we have all the answers and we're going to tell you. It's a completely different dynamic.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So another thing I thought about is take a look at what others in your life expect of you in terms of roles. And I was mostly thinking about adult children. What do your mom and dad or siblings expect you to be? Because it's incredible. And I've worked a lot over the years with people like, oh, I don't want to go home for Christmas. Help. Because you go home and your mother or your father, whomever, still sees you as a 13-year-old. And I remember my mother saying to me, well, you don't like that. You like this. And I'm like, that was like 20 years ago. But it can be incredibly disruptive and disconcerting to family members who still have you boxed in as a particular person in a particular role. And whether that's, well, you're the youngest daughter. I think that, what was it? Was that like water for chocolate? You're the one who's going to take care of us in our old age. Or whether it's just, well, you're the stupid one, or you're the pretty one, or you need to take care of your brother. We have a person in Access, and they were told from the beginning that they had to take charge of their nephew's life, which they did for a while. And then after a while, they're like, no, I'm not doing this. It's not my job. So just being aware of what roles other people put you in and what their idea of that role is. And if you're really aware of it, you can have choice and you can ask questions. Well, if I choose to behave in this way, what does that create? World War III in the family. Maybe I won't do it unless I'm ready to really leave. If I choose to behave in this way, what does that create? So that's the whole thing, to give yourself choice in whatever role you take on.
Well, and, as you talk about that, I can think of, because I have always been engaged in changing things and, expanding my life. And if I notice a limitation, how do I change this? Right. So I would be off living my life, changing all kinds of things, being very different in relationships and stuff, and then go home for the holidays or the summer vacation we all would do together. And I could feel what now I would say is those roles descending on me, of the expectation of this is how I am when I'm with these people. And what's so brilliant about what you were just talking about is when you're willing to be aware of that, that they do have these ideas and of the role you are with them, then you can show up and you can choose to be that, because it makes this dinner easier. Right. But it's a whole different thing if you're choosing to, go along with it from choice. Then I'm stuck in this role with them, and then you don't ever want to see them again.
Right. And then you feel guilty because you don't ever want to see them again.
Exactly.
Because a good daughter or son would want to see them again. Or sister or brother or whatever.
Which good daughter or son or sister or parent is also a role.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we can look at the adjectives that are attached.
Yeah.
You know.
So we've been talking about being in question as one way of getting kind of beyond the roles, just acknowledging the roles you have and are in and the expectations you have of it and other people have of you. Like, what else, Marilyn, like helps when you start to be aware of the roles you have?
Well, as we put in the description, and I'm picking it back up again, ask questions.
Yeah.
Are these roles helpful or harmful? Do they fulfill you or deplete you?
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really critical to choosing which roles you're going to really embrace. Because if you're in the good daughter role and you find that means having these exhausting conversations with mom or dad, or that all they do is complain and blame others and be the victim, that's going to deplete you. And that's not your job. And that's another question you can ask. Is this my job? Or did I take it on as my job? And what would it be like if I didn't take on this role as my job? What would it be like if I said, gee, mom, you think I could get you a therapist? Or I'm sorry, you're so depressed, or whatever. So I was working with someone the other day who had inherited some property because they'd been taking care of this and that and this and that. And they said, well, I've been giving some of it to my siblings because I feel guilty. I'm like, is that working? And they did nothing, the siblings. Is that working for you? And they were like, no, but shouldn't I be doing that? I mean, and it was the role of being the generous sibling.
Yeah.
What I should be as a sibling. I'm like, is that adding to your life? Is that empowering you, or is that detracting from your life and disempowering you?
Yeah.
So you really want to ask questions about these roles. And if it's disempowering you, depleting you, give it up. Yeah. The world is not going to fall apart, and neither is anybody else.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
It's so funny because there was something going through my head and I was gone. I'm just
gone. Well, I'll bring up an extreme example, but I remember a woman in Access talking about how when she divorced, she gave her 3 kids to her husband for custody because she said, I don't really want to be a mom and I'm not good at it.
Yeah. I'm
really not. I get irritable, I get angry, and then I get guilty. And he loves being a dad.
Yeah.
And, that's so contrary to what this reality says that we should do. And later, this was in the past, and then she said, her daughter said, you were a terrible mom. And Gary said to her, say to her, hey, look at the energy of what it would have been like if you'd stayed with me. And look at the energy of what it was like with you, with your dad. Was I really a terrible mom to give you up? Or was I actually doing the best thing for you? It was like, wow. Yeah. So, I mean, it doesn't have to look like what this reality or other people tells you it looks like.
Yes.
And that's the whole point of getting really aware of what the role is and does it work for you or not? And what's going to create greater for everyone?
Yes. And I love that of what works, right? Because we're so often trying to find the correct choice to make in a situation, which means that everything will turn out right. That's so impossible. But if you look at what works, like one of the things when my son and I started having conversations about him renting a room in my house, it was, I said, I really like living alone. I am not interested in living with a bunch of my family. I'd like to, and at the same time, I am interested in contributing to you and having you have a place to live. And so, so then we're finding what works where we can each have a sense of our own space and, living and also enjoying each other as well.
Yes.
So,
yes. Yeah. Cool. Getting out of the mom role and getting into the landlady role.
Exactly. And, and sometimes you have someone that you're interacting with who you can have conversations with about it. And sometimes you've got a stone wall and it's just what you can do and what what you can have clarity on for yourself, ask yourself questions about, and choose how you're going to, what action you're going to take in regard to that role.
Cool. Well, I'm energized, Pam. How about you?
I am too. I am ready to go about the day. Shall I cue the music?
Hear the music.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Have fun today with roles.
See you next time.